folks, we're going to convene the May 2nd, 2012 Urban Renewal Commission meeting here. Nancy, would you like to pull the board, please?
Commissioner Neely?
Here.
Commissioner Pauley? Here. Commissioner Roth? Here. Commissioner Smith?
Here.
Commissioner Yates? Commissioner Peterson?
Here.
Commissioner Mum? Here. Commissioner Edgar?
Here.
Chair Shaw?
Here. Thank you. We will move to citizen comments now, and one thing I want to bring to your attention, a new arrival for us here, is a little brochure on speaking at a city commission meeting. So it's available back there, and pretty good information. It kind of puts everybody at ease and stuff, and how you can do it and make it easy on everybody. So that's available to you back there. So. Okay, so citizen comments. Anybody want to talk about an issue that is not on the agenda this evening? All right, hearing none, we're moving to item 3, adoption of the agenda.
Do that. Say.
We don't need a motion to that.
Okay.
Adopt.
All right.
No fun.
We're ready to move.
Okay, so general business, item 4A, the Amtrak station, which we just got to visit here in the last couple hours or so. And Nancy Kreschauer, would you like to give us a direction on this, please?
Yes, I will, as soon as I get my computer. Well, I don't need that. I'll just, what I was asked to do was to provide a summary of the environmental activities that have occurred at the Amtrak site, because I stated at several meetings that at this time that underneath the Amtrak station is it's not to be accessible to the public. And so there seemed to be some confusion about that, and I thought it'd be good to, since some of you haven't been working on that project since the property was purchased a long time ago, that you would probably appreciate a pretty good solid update on what has occurred in the past. And thank you. I prepared a pretty comprehensive packet for you that gives a summary of the activities starting back in 2000 when we first started negotiating with Stimson Lumber on the purchase of the property, and walked you through the various activities that were primarily funded by Stimson as part of our purchase agreement. And then once we had purchased the property to actually open the Amtrak station, we finished up all of the environmental work. So it involved quite a bit of groundwater and soil monitoring in the first place by Stimson, a very elaborate characterization of the contaminants at the site, and then a remedial action plan that DEQ has very specific requirements and legal requirements for going through a site cleanup that is of the nature that was at the site. And after a long, long time, we finally got a no further action on the groundwater. And then as we constructed the Amtrak station, specific what they call engineering solutions were proposed by the consultant as to being put in permanent place during the construction, so as to minimize the exposure to the public in the future to the previous contaminants in the soil. And probably the most descriptive itemization of those requirements and of the history of the site really is in attachment 3, which was the no further action determination from DEQ. And so there's a lot of information here that I don't really know if I need to go over it in detail. I tried to have the memo be brief enough where it would provide a pretty good overview, and then I tried to provide solid documentation of what was in the memo for you to see everything that was behind the scenes, so to speak. Are there any questions, or did you want me to go into more detail at this point?
Commissioner Edgar.
Thank you. Nancy, I had the opportunity to contact DEQ, and I talked to, but in the process, I also talked to Mr. Stussy from Weston Solutions, who gave me a call back, and he is, if I believe correct, is the environmental consultant that did most of the work and the documentation that was presented to DEQ. And following my discussion with him and his callback, he identified that there was very, very low levels of contaminants, and most of those contaminants were literally under the railroad tracks, and that everything that that needed to be sealed or protected, and I can't, the main thing was the chemicals associated with the chemically treating of wood. I can't spell or pronounce that word correctly. Start P-E...
Pentachlorophenol.
Okay, good, thank you. He said that concentration, 90% was under the railroad tracks and 10% was under the platform. But he went on to say that that is now sealed with concrete, and that my statement to him was, could we pour a floor over that whole space of approximately 6,000 square feet underneath the railroad platform? And he said yes. He said that he envisioned it to be not only reasonable, but something doable. He said the only problem that he felt was from some petrol-type contaminants that have vapors, and he said that could be sealed by both putting a membrane down before the concrete was poured, or by coating the concrete that is poured. But in doing so, it was the appearance that from him directly to me, that I think that we should do a due diligence review. And it would be my recommendation to the Urban Renewal Commission that we vet not only what I'm saying or what the other DEQ consultants or people that I talk to have said, and actually identify what our possibilities are. Because if we've got 6,000 square feet, 5 to 6,000 square feet underneath there, we have and it's worth from $5 to $10 a square foot, and it could be critical in the ability for us to bring retail businesses or some type of business that would have synergy and improve our economy, improve the economic activity in Oregon City, and give us critically a return on investment. It would be my opinion that due diligence would be that we should explore this at its full potential to find out what it represents.
I guess I would just say to that is the process we followed has been very lengthy, and the potential for changing the remedial action plan, I'm sure, is there. It probably depends on what kind of resources you want to invest in. This no further action determination is hot off the press. It was just completed in February, and this is the path we've been following. We were trying to minimize exposures, and we were following the recommendations of our consultants, and DEQ all was agreed to. I believe if you want to go back and hire the same consultant or another one to change the conditions of the remedial action plan and the covenants that have been placed on the property, you could pursue that. And it's just a matter of, it could be timing of that, depending on what really is foreseen for the site, or we might want to find out how much it would cost, because these things, we just finished paying off, you get I won't go into it, but we're at the point now where we are guaranteed to have no more than 4 hours of payment for DEQ's time annually. That may not be any of any significance in the big picture of the building, but I just think it's something that it costs money, it costs resources, and but it's something that I'm sure the consultant would be happy to look into that, and I'm just not sure how DEQ would change after all these years of being on this one path, but like you said, things change, and it's a matter of getting back in negotiations with them.
If I could just ask a quick question about, you're talking about 10-foot, you're talking about commercial space underneath.
Much like Stark Street business lawnmower and things like this, where they have equipment, and like you authorized and permitted for them to enclose that peninsula on Washington Street, virtually kind of kitty corner across the street, where you actually, if I had bicycles in there or bicycle equipment, the critical thing is in reading your code within the floodplain. And reading all of the subsequent code for Main Street. I read them a couple times through to try to recognize what the elements were that could give us a problem. There wasn't many, and as an example, when I talked to Dan Fowler about his desire to build a motel or property right next to it, I said, are you telling me that we can't build anything on your property like a motel? He says, no. I said, well, doesn't the same rules apply? And if we have an existing structure, we also have, which we do, we have other things which could apply. This is a new business opportunity, but yeah, there are hoops.
Well,
but if it's worth $6,000 a month ROI to the urban renewal and to the taxpayers of Oregon City, and it creates jobs, wouldn't it be smart for us to at least evaluate and find out what the potential is?
If I can just, here's my one concern. If we're talking about enclosing that area underneath there with walls and windows and making it a commercial space, and I'm just going to give me 1 second to read this from our flood management code for non-residential construction. New construction and substantial improvements to any commercial, industrial, or other non-residential structure shall either have the lowest floor, including the basement, elevated to at least 1 foot above the base flood elevation, or, together with attendant utility and sanitary facilities, shall be flood-proofed so that below the design flood elevation the structure is watertight, with walls substantially impermeable to the passage of water. So that's my concern about if we're going to start spending money on this, that there's an understanding that there is a significant prohibition in your flood management code to do this. And just let me finish real quick. The elevation out there, just look at the maps quickly, is about 40 feet. And that's why the platform is so high to get above 1 foot above the base flood elevation.
And even that's not high enough.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, we're talking about the interpreters that are being...
Right. Yeah.
We're going to go to Commissioner Neely here.
I would say before, I think that may be a path to go down. If we're going to invest some money at this point in the station, I would prefer to go through a visioning process to find out what that visioning process creates. It may well be that the vision that could be adopted by the Urban Renewal Agency in terms of that process would look at the use and the potential things that needed to be done below the station. But from my standpoint, I'd like to have a public involvement in the process as well, but to invest in the visioning piece before we really move forward with any specific things. That's a piece of property we wouldn't be selling. That's going to belong to the Urban Renewal District, and when it closes, probably to the city. And I think we need some real public input in terms of how that facility is to be used. And I would have no objection at all for us investing some funds into a visioning process.
Commissioner Mumm.
Well, a couple of concerns on my part, but I'll withhold them for the moment. I would like to say that right now we have before us an opportunity to gut a building and find a potential owner or renter for that building to bring us income. So before we start spending more and more money underneath, I would like to see what the top will look like. So my recommendation would be that we direct staff to get the building ready, clean it out, give them white walls so that people can go in and see themselves in the project, in the building. And then if we have income coming in, then we look at the visioning process for the bottom, and then we look at arguing with DEQ. And I don't know. I just don't want to put the cart before the horse.
Thank you. Commissioner Pauly?
I believe in keeping it simple, too. And right now, it's a resource, and I think with a blank slate inside so businesses can see the potential, I think it's a resource, and then, later on, something else can be done. But it'd be nice to get that done, a blank slate, and then move on to the next project, so not get bogged down.
Okay. Commissioner Roth?
I think it's a great idea to go ahead and do the reconstruction on the upstairs, but I think that you may want to look at the downstairs as in conjunction with something happening upstairs, and so I think a visioning needs to go right along with whatever else is happening.
Okay. Commissioner Neely?
When I was on the visioning process, I meant for the whole structure, not just the lower portion.
Right.
All right. So during one of our discussions here down there today at this station, there was discussion about possibly getting a marketing analysis done of the property first to see what all would fit there. Now, that could be the use of the upper story, the lower story, whatever, but I think we kind of have to turn this over to the professionals and let them do a little marketing analysis of what the potential is there. Mr. Underwood, would you agree with me there?
I would agree. I think a marketing analysis is going to provide us more direction as to how to actually market that building for the type of business that's going to work out there. And with the marketing analysis, you could do both the top and the bottom.
Yeah.
You could do the total square footage. But that would provide us also with the basis as we go into the visioning process later with some technical documentation there as well. So.
Okay. Do we have an idea what a marketing analysis would cost to do something like that?
For that piece, I'm going to guesstimate anywhere between, I'd say, $15,000, $25,000.
$25,000?
It's going to be expensive.
Okay.
Because they're not going to look at just that one site. They're going to look at the area.
Well, that's the whole point. Yeah, we want to see the halo effect, so, okay. I knew you were going with that. All right.
And we budgeted $30,000.
Yeah.
So that would take most of the budget.
It would take most of the budget, and then when it became time to do a little demo work, if we needed to inside, we'd have to look at a little different avenue for that, huh? Well, I think that have some little input here. We have Mr. Graham Peterson. Commissioner Peterson, excuse me.
So I don't ever envision that lower area ever penciling as occupiable space. I could see it being storage potentially, and that may pencil out. I don't think making it space to be occupied would ever pencil. And with the budget that we've got budgeted for that, I don't know if spending $25,000 on a study of what's possible or what the highest best use is. I don't know if you would necessarily see a return on that. That's my only concern. But there could be synergy for the storage if you've got a use upstairs that could use some open locked storage, and that, if it was just a chain link fence as it is, or some sort of secure storage, doesn't have to be a lot of money put into it. I could see that having a return, but I guess what value, my question would be, I'm not opposed to the 25,000 to look at that, but what would we gain from that? What insights would we have, I guess? What do you see coming from that?
Well, I guess what we would gain from that would be some sort of direction as how to target certain businesses or companies to locate there, as it is now and as it will be in the future, or how it might change over the course of time as development occurs in that area. It would give us an idea of potential lease rates for that area, what kind of revenues would be generated.
Commissioner,
I have a couple of questions. It could be that the thing to do here would be sort of a hybrid of what Eric suggested and also what some of you have suggested, which would be the possibility of having a market analysis later. If you get some initial interest in the building, you prep it for some creative developers to look at it and see what could be done now, and then you start generating income, and you kind of do an early outreach to see what kind of interest we get, and that way we don't stifle any creativity that may be coming from the private sector on the site, and at the same time we also know that later, especially if we don't like the results, we can still come back later and do some market analysis. We might have to wait a year, but I'm just wondering if that might not work.
Commissioner Smith.
I agree with Graham's comments on the building itself, and I guess my only comment with the possible visioning process is I almost see that being a later thing, because the use that we're talking about now is not going to be the final use of this building. It's how do we maintain that building and have a use for it until we figure out what its future is. So, and honestly, I don't have a lot of. I don't feel good about our past visioning processes. We've had visioning processes for multiple empty buildings that are either empty or are being used for exactly the same thing they've always been used for. And so, there's nothing that comes out of these visioning sessions that doesn't stem from everything we've already talked about. For me, what we just did was the visioning process, and there's nothing that's going to come, I think, in a visioning process beyond what anyone in this community has already talked about for being in these sites. So I don't want to see us keep putting a bunch of money into those kind of things if we kind of already see what direction it's going. But I think it has huge potential for the upper part of the building in so many ways. It's easy to see that. I think the lower part, with the flooding issues alone, not even mentioning the DEQ question, I think is really a long shot. But if it was something that was a bicycle use and you could see bicycles that's completely different. I think that's fairly realistic probably, but so I would like to see us kind of just market it and maybe, just gut it, clean it up, see what comes of it, and if people bite at it, then we don't have to worry about it. It's done, and if not, then we deal with it after that. But I think if we get that building ready to go, I think there's going to be interest in it. In itself, I think it's going to evolve on its own.
I agree. Well, it could be the scenario where you do get someone in there that works really well and possibly in the future wants to expand and maybe partner with us to reinvest in that building.
All right, Commissioner Edgar.
Well, initially when I talked to some of the people at DEQ, one of the issues that I talked about was putting showers in. I attended the bicycle tourism workshop, and I'm also in the Clackamas County Transportation Advisory Group. We've been looking at what we could do and how idealistic this site might be as a central spur for bicycle tourism. And if it were, one of the things would be like putting showers in bathrooms underneath the platform.
Just opened all the time?
Well, it may not be open all the time, but it would be part of...
Well, I'm trying to envision this.
But come on!
Wait, okay, yes.
There are hostels around all over Europe, and if you travel, that are where people can come and go and come into. How we manage it and how we vision it through. But what the question was, could we put bathrooms and a restroom, a shower, and have a place where people could come ride a bicycle down, store a bicycle, have maybe a bicycle shop and parts and things like this in a secure place underneath the platform, and have people fan out from the railroad station going virtually any place. And when we talked about that type of opportunity in in creating some type of environment like that, there was not anything that anyone said to me that made that sound like it was difficult or impossible to do. And that could be very positive for our city.
Okay, I would just like to caution.
Yeah, we've got, you okay with her? Okay.
Push the button.
We have a citizen comment here from William Gifford. And you are aware of the brochure, Mr. Gifford.
No, I'm not.
Let me read this to you.
So I'm going to turn off of my
Sign it, please.
Good evening, Chair Shaw and Urban Renewal Commissioners. My name is William Gifford. I live in Oregon City. Been listening to the discussion. Thanks for the opportunity to visit on the tour this evening as well. Regarding the visioning issue, I really want to concur with Commissioner Smith that I don't think we need to spend a lot of money on doing vision. I think that what you're doing now is really the visioning process that we need. What I would like to hear articulated is what the long-range plan for that facility is. That is to say, are you expecting it to generate money? And if so, how much and how soon do you want to generate it? And I wouldn't use as a presumption that you're using that just to generate rental income, because it can be seen as a catalyst, and I can understand that. But if you are, then just have that clearly laid out. And if it is going to generate money, how much and how soon. Insofar as opportunities underneath the station, the concern that I have is not with the contaminants underneath there. It's the floodplain and the issues that we would have of being able to ameliorate that. I think we're barely going to be able to keep our feet above water, above the ground, much less below it. Another thing that Commissioner Smith brought up that I want to make sure that doesn't get missed is the comment about maintenance. I want to make sure that what is developed there is a long-term budget line item for anticipated maintenance on that building. I don't want to wind up with another visitor center with rusted hoops. So making sure that please keep in mind that we're going to have to maintain that building. And finally, I'd like to close with a quotation from FDR. Whether or not you agree with his politics, a lot get done in his administration. And here's a direct quote from him. He said, "Do something. If it works, do more of it. If it doesn't work, do something else."
Thank you, Mr. Gifford. Okay, Commissioner Mudd.
So I'm going to not make my comments about the bathroom and shower, but I'm going to say, what's the plan here? Do we need to come up with a motion? I mean, what's the next thing that we need to do? Do we suggest
We're going to get to that here. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's go to Commissioner Pauly now.
I was just going to say, I feel the issues of expansion underneath are issues for the entrepreneur. I think it's important to give freedom for private investment. And from a business standpoint, the building itself is a rentable resource right now. And so I think it's our work in making it an attractive rentable resource and getting the most money for it, and getting a business in that can provide jobs and get something going in there.
Okay. All right. So what I'm kind of hearing here is that we want to do get this building marketable, get it on the market, kind of, get it exposed to see what filters into us. And also, we've got to figure out what do we really want there that we know about. And we do know that we want to have part of that space for Amtrak traffic and information available to the city attraction stuff. So we do know that we want to take maybe part of that north end of that building and dedicate it to kind of a universal space of some kind for, especially for Amtrak waiting, things like that. That's what I've got so far here. So anybody else want to enlighten me here? I've got Commissioner Roth here. Or is it done?
Yeah.
Commissioner Neely, okay.
I'm green.
Okay.
I guess it's really a question. We talk about gutting it. I would presume a prospective leaser renter could figure out how they would want to have that building without gutting it first. I mean, we can gut it. We can gut it for whatever it is after we have something. Does somebody know what they want out of it and need it gutted?
The best way to market that property and get a decent lease rate is to get it ready for a tenant. And you can gut it and make it a kind of a flex space, which is definitely more appealing than the condition it's in right now. So just by making it a flex space and gutting the inside and restoring some of the characteristics of the original building and so forth is going to up the value of that property.
Commissioner Roth?
I agree, especially if we could get the ceilings higher. I do have a concern about asbestos. Anybody have any idea? Because you've got some old ceiling tiles and...
You'd want to do, you want to get some samples taken?
Well, I'm concerned about, where costs could go if it is an asbestos problem.
Yeah, and we'd have to evaluate that.
Because you may have under that carpet some problems.
We would look into that.
Yeah.
That would be part of the contract.
The demo.
Agreeing with the contractor to go in and renovate it.
But that could severely impact our budget.
It could.
There's also encapsulation. I mean, we just need to look at that.
So that's something we can investigate, and if it does turn out something that we're going to need to consider, then we can bring it back.
Okay, so some investigation is going to be happening here. And we do need to get costs for demo, Eric, I think, don't we? And then that's going to be involved with Commissioner Roth's issue, too.
So what I think I would need then is some sort of motion from the commission kind of delineating what your next steps for me would be. To go out and get a cost estimate for demolition.
Can I make a suggestion? Instead, because we're going to be traipsing back here a lot if we do it that way. Maybe within the limits of the budget that you have available, you could just direct staff to make the space ready and report back on any investigations that are undertaken by any contractors and keep you informed about what's happening on the site rather than getting into the
voting on everything.
Yeah.
It might be pretty lengthy otherwise. So suggesting we'll get more done faster if you give us a broader direction.
Because we did budget, what, 30,000?
So I would so move his first two sentences, which you can pick off the tape.
Whatever he said.
So you want to have a motion? Is that what you're... Well, we did budget 30,000, so...
We have to do that.
Okay.
It was basically make it ready and keep the staff informed.
Make it marketable.
And make it marketable.
Report back to the commission within the limits of the budgeted amount.
So that doesn't make...
That's his first two sentences.
Investigating all of the opportunities as we go along to meet the needs of the people.
Yeah.
But that's not a motion, right?
I didn't know.
We are, but I'm trying to... Is this a form of motion?
Yes. it is.
Okay, so this is our very first with the electronic motion and voting. So on your screen, you should, if you're on the floor, you should have a screen that says motion. And if you could state the motion.
I will state it with help from the city manager. Move to make the building marketable, reporting back to the commission, and...
Within the limits of the budgeted funds.
Pardon me?
Within the limit.
Within the limits of the budget.
Within the limits of the budget.
And whoever wishes to second it, press your...
Has already been done.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Good job, you guys.
Okay. All right. And we're going to start the vote. 1 second.
Now, we're still going to do this odd, I mean,
You're going to tell
verbally,
who we
right?
have.
So, okay.
Unless it's
Until
unanimous.
we have, yeah. So,
Record. So, the motion passed unanimously.
Right.
Okay.
Good. All right, very good. Thank you, folks. We will move to item 4B, status update presentation for design phase process for McLaughlin Boulevard Phase 2. This would be Nancy Kreschauer, please.
Yes, I'd like to invite Alita Furman Goodrich up to make the presentation. And we're about to embark on the design phase of McLaughlin Boulevard Phase 2. And Alita is our project manager. She did a fantastic job on the Phase 1 project. And we wanted to make sure that the Urban Renewal Commission is updated right away, and we'll continue to keep you in the loop as the project moves on. And I think there's quite a bit of information in your staff report. And we won't go through all those details with you tonight. That's just for your own benefit and detailed information. But Alita's put together a PowerPoint presentation, a brief PowerPoint to update you on the project.
Great. Welcome, Alita.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair Shaw and Urban Renewal Commissioners. I'd like to start you off with we're talking about the design phase of McLaughlin Boulevard Enhancement Plan Phase 2. It's also known as OR 99E Clackamas River Bridge to Dunes Drive in Oregon City in ODOT's project books. Okay, I wanted to give you a little background on the McLaughlin Boulevard Enhancement Plan. Whoa. This went too far. Sorry about that. In 2002, the city applied for a Transportation and Growth Management Program grant, and they were awarded the grant and the funding to develop a design concept for the McLaughlin Boulevard corridor from the railroad underpass north to the Clackamas River Bridge. Stakeholders for this project got together and they visioned and planned multiple phases of the project. Specifically, three phases were visioned. The first phase, as you can see from the aerial, was from 10th Street to the I-205 interchange. The second phase is from Dunes Drive to the Clackamas River Bridge, and the third future phase is from 10th Street down to the railroad underpass. The visioning and planning resulted in the McLaughlin Boulevard Enhancement Plan. In 2004, 2005, the preferred plan was prepared and adopted through the city ordinance, and then subsequently the city adopted it as an ancillary document to the Oregon City Transportation System Plan. The city then applied for funding through the Metro Transportation Improvement Program, and this is a competitive application process. The city was awarded $4.6 million of Federal Highway Trust funding for the Phase 1 project, which again is from 10th Street to the I-205 interchange. Between the years 2006 and 2010, the design of the Phase 1 project from 10th Street to the I-205 interchange was designed and constructed. The improvements included wider sidewalks, a multi-use path with public art, street illumination, and redesigning the lanes to facilitate traffic calming with landscape medians and street trees along the roadway.
Okay, based on that picture there, we might add that we planted, I can't remember how many trees and shrubs and small plants to restore riparian area along the river, that section of the highway. And do you remember many plants? No. A lot.
A lot.
And some people might maybe complain a little bit because it's not formal landscaping, it's not mowed, it's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be as natural as possible, trying to keep it nice looking, but not like a golf course.
Yes.
Well, it'd be a challenging golf course.
A water hole, right?
And in 2006, 2007, the city applied for funding, again through the Metro Transportation Improvement Program, and was awarded $3.4 million from the Federal Highway Trust funding for the Phase 2 project, which is from the Clackamas River Bridge to Dunes Drive. The urban renewal plan includes all of the McLaughlin Boulevard enhancement projects and adopted those into the current plan. During the visioning process and the development of the McLaughlin Boulevard enhancement plan that the city adopted, there were project goals that they were seeking, and they felt it was very important. One of the first goals was to create a physical and visual connection between downtown Oregon City and the Willamette River. That if anybody has walked that corridor or can remember walking that corridor prior to the Phase 1 project, it was actually quite a scary area on the river side of the project. There were sidewalks there, but they were very grown over with dropping tree limbs across areas, very dark, no street light illumination, and so, you know, it wasn't a very inviting location to go, even if you did have the crosswalks from the downtown side across to the river side. So it was very important to establish that physical and visual connection again with the Willamette River. Another important goal was to provide enhancements for the success of the Oregon City's 2040 Regional Center, reinvigorating and well-connected waterfront amenities down through the downtown area, and making that, again, a gateway to our regional center. Also improving multimodal travel through this northernmost section of the Oregon City 2040 Regional Center. This is a vital transit corridor. There's the Transit Mall there at 11th Street, and then at Dunes Drive there's various bus routes, as well as I'm not sure of the correct description on the high-speed rapid transit.
Well, right now we have frequent bus, which is every 15 minutes from Portland. And then in the future, it is identified in Metro's high-capacity transit plan as a future high-capacity transit route corridor. It's not determined exactly where it would go, but it is, McLaughlin Boulevard is a candidate.
And then Another goal is to construct vehicular, pedestrian, bicycle-friendly facilities through lane design, traffic calming, landscaping, increased pedestrian access ways within Oregon City's mixed-use downtown zoning. Phase 1 did accomplish these goals, and we're hoping that Phase 2 will also accomplish these goals.
You know, I wanted to just add on the second goal up there, was provide enhancements and well-connected downtown. And I think already maybe some folks have gotten used to having the 12th Street connection to McLaughlin Boulevard, and 4 years ago that wasn't there, and you had to, it was, you know, it was just harder. It's getting easier and easier to find a way into our downtown.
So that's the background on how we've gotten to now the proposed design phase of Phase 2 from the Clackamas River Bridge to Dunes Drive. We are right now in the process of executing the agreement between ODOT and the city to use those federal fund dollars for the Phase 2. David Evans and Associates has been selected as the consultant through the ODOT request for proposal process, and they the tentative schedule right now is from June 2012 to March 2013. DEA will be preparing designs from 30%, 95%, and 100% plans so that in March of 2013 through July of 2013, ODOT will be advertising and going through the bidding, awarding, and executing of the construction contract. Right now, there's been a conceptual plan that was produced through the application process for the various MTIP applications starting back in 2006. The conceptual design was, again, more of the same type of design elements: wider sidewalks, landscape medians, street trees, illumination, sidewalk connections to get from the McLaughlin Boulevard corridor to our waterfront amenities, including our waterfront parks, water quality improvements, and bike routing improvements. So on the commission report, there's a more detailed design phase, tentative schedule, providing you with some of the milestones and tasks that will take us through the design to final plans. Any questions?
You might add that we are working on developing a stakeholder committee to participate at appropriate times during the design, and to keep them informed of what's going on. And then we also are trying to work with Portland State University with their architect students to develop some concepts for architectural features along this segment of the highway, particularly the bridge across Clackamas Drive. We'd like to get some interesting features on that bridge, on the railings, even so that you'd see them from below, not just from driving on the bridge. And then there's a welcome gateway treatment that we'd like to get some ideas from them on. So that sounds pretty exciting. And right now, David Evans is working on trying to schedule some things with their students.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alita. Thank you, Nancy. Looks great. All right. We'll move on. That's just a presentation, so we can move on here, too.
Can you ask a question?
Commissioner Neely.
Right here.
Okay.
A couple. Is the, I don't know the name of it except when Jerry Herman gives it, Firestone Alley, is that part of this design? That small roadway that goes from the Oregon City Shopping Center down to the Main Street extension.
That is not part of the design.
Okay. The other thing that concerns me a little bit, because you talk about the 205 going from Dunes to the bridge, and I know we did a little bit of improvements on 205 to Dunes, but it's not really a very pedestrian-friendly stretch, and I'd like to see it made more pedestrian-friendly, but this is not part of our design feature.
From what go ahead.
The project limits for this area is to Dunes Drive. The interchange area has many other requirements through the ODOT process, so that has never been actually applied for, I believe, for that section, and I believe there's also some ODOT plans for an interchange design that has dual lanes on one of the ramps. So as far as improving the pedestrian facilities in that area, there is potential to apply for pedestrian grants through ODOT, bike ped grants, so that, that would be an opportunity in that area.
And I believe that Oregon City Shopping Center, there's a condition of approval on their development site plan that would require them to improve the sidewalks on their frontage with landscaping. Is that right, Tony? Oregon City Shopping Centers?
Yes. Yeah, right now we did do a land use approval for some demolition work and minor additions to Oregon City Shopping Center. And the main conditions are dealing with redoing their driveway, access to their parking lot, and then redesigning that interaction between 99E North, the right turn at Firestone into their parking lot, and then the left down Firestone Alley, so making that safer. So that's what they're focusing on, and those are the improvements that they'll be making right now. If the original proposal had a building right at the corner of the light at Dune and the entryway to their facility, they dropped those plans and were waiting until this project was completed so that they were not required to do those improvements. But if they were to come in, we would have those discussions about, because of how much frontage they have, where they would be making improvements, whether that's south of the light at Dune or Firestone Alley or a combination of. But at this point, we don't have a land use application for any further improvements on that property.
Okay, Commissioner Roth.
I'm looking at this timeline, and I'm a little concerned. I guess I don't understand it. The personal services agreement with David Evans to provide the design phase ends in June, and then it says June, July, August, David Evans prepares a draft design acceptance package. Where is the public input into that draft design?
I don't have any of those types of milestones listed in here. There would be a public process throughout this whole design phase. So right now we don't have any type of work order contract, or ODOT does not have a work order contract with David Evans and Associates that more outlines exactly the tasks and a true schedule for their tasks. So these are all tentative currently. There is a public involvement phase that will have a timeline associated with it as well.
What I'm concerned about is this is very short time. We're already in May, so we're talking about June, this next month. It takes a while to get the public involved sometimes. And so if we're looking at design acceptance by August, I'm thinking this looks very, very short to me.
Maybe unrealistically short.
Without starting public input right now.
Yeah, again, this is a tentative schedule. As we work through the process of the final scope of work that David Evans would be doing, they would come up with a timeline, and you would work through the process as as the whole design to the 30% would take. Again, this is not a fixed timeline.
Alita, the design acceptance package doesn't necessarily provide details on all of the elements of the project. Can you explain more what the design acceptance package focuses on?
The design acceptance package is an ODOT step to going to final design, and it includes specific design standards that are required to be met through either the ODOT Highway Design Manual or AASHTO, which is the urban local roadway design standards. And so sidewalk width, depending on what type of roadway system you're working with, whether it's a highway or an arterial or neighborhood collector roadway, there's certain roadway standards that must be met. If they can't be met, then a design exception must be approved through ODOT of why the AASHTO standards or the ODOT Highway Manual standards cannot be met. And so the design acceptance package doesn't get into the details of each design. It's more is a conceptual design, but it gets to the detail of how wide are the lanes in the road, travel lanes in the roadway are going to be, how wide is the bike lane, how wide is the sidewalks, the shoulder, your medians. It's a lot about set standards. So this isn't a detailed design. It's more 30% is considered still a conceptual stage of design.
Well, maybe I could just get straight to the point here. I want to know when the design comes in for taking that roundabout out.
Yeah, have I answered?
I don't think we have an answer for that. If you want the roundabout out, we'd have to go through a public process on that.
That's what
the fishermen around here have told us that to get to the marina, they can't have a roundabout to get the boats down there. And fishermen in this town are a big deal, and this is not a minor league issue about having a roundabout down there. It's got to go. And even the area that is dedicated for the bioswale next to McDonald's, this is highly valuable property.
That's right of way right now.
Well, I know, but it's highly valuable property that has a potential of creating economic value and jobs in Oregon City. And for us to not discuss moving the bioswale down on the other side of Clackamas River Drive in some way that it doesn't limit our opportunities is ludicrous. That it's not there, because we have to be talking about jobs and creating economic vitality in Oregon City, not some roundabout and grandiose ideas where we could have opportunities otherwise that could help our city.
Okay.
Again, this is a conceptual design. There will be a public process through the 30% design phasing. And so nothing here it's all conceptual. It's not set in stone.
All right.
Through the public process, that's how we would be getting to a 30% design.
We do want to stay within the boundaries of the project. If we start moving into Clackamas Park with our stormwater facilities, that will not be allowable. But and we'll talk about it. We'll talk about the roundabout. We'll talk about what is the actual radius. What kind of vehicles can easily negotiate it? Are there problems with it? What can't it do? What do we like about it? What don't we like about it? And I think those are conversations that go on in any project with many of the design elements. So we'll have those conversations.
All right. Thanks, Alita. Thanks, Nancy. due to our time frame here, are there anything on the agenda, the rest of the agenda, that we need to
We
take
could adopt the
immediate?
consent agenda. That would
We have to adopt the consent
I
agenda.
move the consent agenda. Okay.
we got to vote.
Yeah.
Sorry, with motion.
Okay, there you go.
I move to pass it.
Start voting.
You're missing me, and you're getting screwed.
I thought I was there.
And Commissioner Neely. You are. Okay.
I am?
Yeah.
Okay, motion passes unanimously.
Okay.
We'll start the commission meeting promptly at 10 after. Anybody wants to take breaks, just so quickly.
Should I adjourn now?
I still have my report.
Oh my gosh, we have a city manager's report tonight?
Yes.
Still start at 10 after.
I'll be very short. I need to go back just for a second to ask Commissioner Edgar about some communications that you had with the consultant on that depot building, because the bills come through our office, and I want to make sure that, did they answer those questions pro bono? Or?
Yes, they did. They were. I asked them as a citizen trying to gather information.
I wasn't clear. I just wanted to know, so I would be ready to
To not
check
take
that box if necessary. Also, I wanted to ask Eric Underwood to give you a short update on the Cove developers report.
Thank you.
So we've been talking with the developers, and they have gone back and revised their last proposal that we brought to you. We plan on, we've asked our attorney, Steve Janik, to draft a letter with the conditions, and we plan on bringing that to you at the May 16th meeting to discuss that further. So making a little progress, but they're not all the way there. So we'll talk more about that.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's all.
Thank you. All right. Okay, nothing else? We are adjourned.
Commission meeting will start at 10 after 7.